How are you pleased with how things are going this week, and you guys think you're maybe ready to kind of turn the corner?
Yeah, it's been a focus. Actually, me and Coach Moorhead watched a bunch of tape of our first games, what we've done in opening drives, and then also what we're facing this week with Minnesota in opening drives, and what can we do better. Is there any themes? Is there anything kind of that's really jumping out? So we spent a lot of time talking about this week. We did it ahead of time, but we wanted to get the first and second down game plan done. We wanted to get third down, red zone, goal line, all those types of situations done. And then today we took our first look at it, and then we'll follow back up later in the week, probably tomorrow. I think the other thing is I've been places where you scripted the first couple plays, maybe 10 plays. He hasn't done that, but I do think thinking about and studying the first drive a little bit more, I think is going to help us.
So will you guys script now?
No, we're not going to script, but I just think we're taking a little bit more specific approach.
James, what are your thoughts on the Big Ten statement about targeting, basically saying the replay official didn't get it right, and that rule in general? How tough is it to coach your kids to not do what they're not target?
To be honest with you, guys know I can't say a whole lot about any of these types of things. So, I was told one thing during the game, so I reinforced that in the press conference, what I was told. And then, obviously we've been in conversation since then with the Big Ten, and they came out with a statement today. So targeting in general, I get it, I understand. It's important for our game that we're doing everything we possibly can to protect the student athletes and protect the game, to be honest with you. But it is tough. You're going in to tackle a guy, you're trying to be aggressive. I think we've done a pretty good job with targeting in general. That was kind of a unique situation. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Big Ten came out with a statement, to make sure everybody's clear, because it's a little bit of a gray area. But there's clearly, I think you guys saw in the statement that was put out, there's clearly a clause for if you're going for the ball.
Did you end up sitting in that meeting then, or did they approach you about?
Yeah, guys, I know what you guys would love, especially Megan, is to see me get fined. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it at that. They've made their statement. I appreciate they're making their statement. Like I said, after the game, I reinforced what I was told during the game, and they've made their statement today. So I don't want to go down that road. I'm going to stay. I'm going to let it go.
James, I'm going to take you down a different road then. It's clear on social media and in conversations that your players are very aware of the socio-political and racial climate in America right now. What is that dialogue like with the head coach and his players, and does it help players on a team and in a locker room environment understand each other a little bit more on these issues, because they have a bigger goal for them in their minds on the field?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing going on right now in our country, whether you agree with some of the protests and how things have happened, whether you agree with it or not, I think the positive thing for our country, and the positive thing I think for being on a college campus, is that it promotes dialogue, and there's discussion that's going on about these topics. They're very, very important topics for our country and for our society in general. So I think that's what college campuses are all about. So that's what we did. We got in a situation a little bit that first week that we didn't find out about the national anthem until Tuesday, that we were going to have it, and it had already started kind of nationally. So we just had some discussions as a team, but it's hard to do that the week of. So we've already started having some discussions, but we're gonna have a more thorough dialogue during the bye week. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of different opinions on this. There's a lot of different perceptions. I mean, even myself, I'm an African-American football coach. My dad was in the Air Force. So everybody kind of has different opinions on this. But I think dialogue in general is important, as long as it's healthy dialogue and as long as it's thoughtful. And our guys have been really good about that. So we support them in expressing themselves. But right now it's been dialogue.
I'm sorry, you said discussion during the bye week. What pertaining to what exactly?
Having a more thorough discussion about the national anthem and some of the decisions that our people are making. Sit down and kind of look at it from all different perspectives. Look at it from both sides of the table. having a military perspective in there, just really having a healthy dialogue. I don't think it's something that you can do and just go out without discussing and hearing different people's perspective. I think that's what makes this country so great, is that two people can have two completely different opinions, but you got to respect their opinion. You got to respect their perspective. So that's what we're trying to do.
James,
Coach,
I respect that you don't want to talk about the targeting thing anymore necessarily in specifics, but speaking in generalities, what role do you think a head coach should have in lobbying for or advocating for certain rule changes, and how can you go about doing that in a respectful way where you don't feel like you're out of line?
Yeah, coaches do. We're involved in the rulemaking process. Not heavily involved, but we have coaches that sit on those boards when we're coming up every single year, whether we're modifying some rules or instituting new rules. But when anything that deals with player safety and concussions, which is such a hot topic, you're not going to really make too many adjustments to that. The game has gone in that direction. It's not coming back. Any type of shot above the chest, you're putting yourself in jeopardy. You're putting the person that you're hitting in jeopardy, and you're putting yourself in jeopardy. So I think those things those ships have sailed. So yeah, I think coaches are involved in the rulemaking process, but those things when it comes to player welfare and player health and safety, they're part of our game now. And I don't think you're going to see us go back in the other direction. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Coach, with all the injuries at linebacker, obviously Jay Cooper's been forced to play a lot more than he has in the past and last year. What have you liked what have you enjoyed that you've seen from him, and what do you think he needs to work on to take on more of a leadership role and be more productive on the field?
I think him and Brandon, the first thing they need to do is they need to be more vocal and take control. That's kind of a natural thing for young players. They're worried about themselves and doing their own job, not necessarily doing their own job and also leading the group. So both of those guys have got to be a lot more verbal and take control of calling out the defense, the adjustments, the shifts, the strengths, all those types of things. That's an area that I think both of those guys need to do better. But in the limited amount of time that they've had and the limited reps, they both got great instincts. They both have really good quickness. And obviously you look at B. Smith, he's been pretty productive. We need Coop to take that next step as well.
Now, when you say they're worried about making them play themselves, I know you don't mean that by them being selfish, though. Do you think they'll just learn more as they go that, I have to take care of letting everybody else know what's going on? You think that just comes with more experience?
No, what I'm saying is a Mike linebacker is different than a lot of other positions where if you're just a corner, you're just worried about doing your job within the framework of the defense. The Mike linebacker can't just worry about doing his job, because a big part of his job is making the calls and making the adjustments and getting everybody on the same page. That's why you typically see Mike linebackers being more veteran players, because there's an aspect almost like being a quarterback. You got to run the show. You're the coach on the field. That's why when we got here, we had Mike Hull. We moved to Mike linebacker, experienced veteran player.
James, how's the health of that unit looking? I know you said that you were hoping possibly for a couple guys back this week. How's the health? Is there any update on that?
Yeah, I know I didn't answer that. We said possibility, but it wasn't something that we felt like was going to be this week. It's we'll see. I don't think something's imminent.
We'll talk to Marcus Allen here in a little bit. How much has Malik meant to what you guys have done so far this year?
Malik's done a good job. He's taken on a really strong role this whole offseason. Him and Coach Banks have formed a really good relationship. He has been a leader for us. He has been productive. We thought actually last week he was one of the guys that played really well and kind of stepped up in the circumstances. So he's been good. He's been good with Coach Banks. I know he's been good with Coach Pry. And we're going to continue to lean on guys like him. Again, we don't have many of the older veteran players like that. So he's a guy that's embraced that role and that opportunity.
James, this morning on his conference call, Saquon Barkley said he felt like the offense was a lot more prepared from a film study point at the first practice of the week because of the players meeting on Monday. Do you feel in past weeks and going into the games they had been as prepared as you'd like?
Well, you can always say you should do more. The best teams that I've been around, they come in and watch film on their own and do it together. One of the things that's changed in the last couple of years is the iPads. The iPads are a real positive thing because they have them, all their classwork, all their homework, their notes, all that stuff is downloaded. The playbooks is all downloaded. The negative to it is they don't have to come in and watch film. They can do it wherever they want. That's a positive because they have it with them all the time. The negative is I think it's good to come in and watch film together. The quarterback and the O-line watching film together. The quarterback and the receivers watching film together. So they're having discussions and they're learning from each other. So that's one of the things that's a little bit different. That I think the iPad, in some ways, hasn't been a positive force. So yeah, I think they've watched a bunch of film, but what they did this past week is they watched film together, which I think they felt like was helpful.
James, usually, a kicker is a safety valve on the kickoff team. Julius obviously a little bit different. Just curious, is that by design? Was there a point in time when you're like, forget the safety valve thing, Joey, just go run down? How did that kind of, come to be?
If you look at my previous school, there was videos that came out about our kicker there as well. We've done it here. We've always done that. I don't think a safety valve makes any sense because if you're a safety valve, you're back with space. And typically those guys aren't athletic enough to make a tackle against the best athlete on the other team in space. Very few people are, let alone a kicker. So our thing is go down there. We don't necessarily need them to be Mike Singletary and go knock a guy out. If they do it, wonderful. But really, all I want them is down in the hole, and they need to be reading it just like the return man. And if the return man, they see it setting up and they see a hole open, get up in the hole and just slow the guy down. Make him restart his feet, make him stutter his feet, grab him and drag him until the rest of the guys can get there. But I've just seen way too many times, kicker kick off, jog down, the guy comes through, and then they're sprinting trying to make the tackle, and they very rarely make the tackle. So it just makes common sense to me to have the guy down there. But if you look, since I've been a head coach, actually we put a clip of film together of both kickers doing that. So we want to continue to build on that. Something I think has been important and it's been helpful for us.